Hey, good afternoon to you. 407 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up in the next hour, Victor Davis Hanson will join us. At the top, we'll talk about President Trump and his ruthlessly efficiency at executing on the vision of the American people. A lot to talk about with VDH. And then Angela Morabito talks to us about the Department of Education and the left's attempted insurrection today. Right there at its doors. She'll join us at 5:30. You can join us at 888-630-9625. 888-630-WMAL. Boy, the left is getting super cringy.
We will win. 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 We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest.
And very elderly Chuck Schumer with his glasses falling off of his face outside of the USAID earlier this week with a whole bunch of Democrats chanting that we will win. The update, they've lost. Outside of the USAID right now, all of the letters are coming off the building that say U.S. Agency for International Development, and the various other signs around the building have tape being put over the name of the agency. And the Associated Press reports that forced leave, pulling all but a small fraction of staffers from USAID off the job around the world, well, that began today. Joining us now to discuss, David Strom, an associate editor for Hot Air, which I should note, does not take USAID money. David, good to have you with us today.
I am just in seventh heaven. It is just, it's like justice is finally coming to the world, years late, but, we are witnessing the second or third American Revolution. It's glorious.
It's remarkable because normally what happens is politicians lie to you about the likeliness that they're going to improve your life. And then when they're called to task on it, they announce blue ribbon commissions and then everything disappears inside of the bureaucracy. This is different, isn't it?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, it's not even in the same universe. I mean, we're in a different timeline now. And it is glorious what's happening, and it's hilarious. I mean, the Democrats have spent all day complaining about a 19-year-old who used the nickname Big Balls when he was playing games on computers. It's like, really? I mean, they have fallen into a trap that I never thought I would see. I mean, I've been arguing at the Minnesota level for 20, 25 years that you have to go after the nonprofits. That's where the real power is. That's where the money laundering is. That's where the Democrats stash their campaign workers. It's where the politicians go after they leave office to make bank. And no one believed me, or it was too big, too hard.
Yes.
And, all these nonprofits sound like they have, wonderful names, so you can't criticize them. We're feeding the transgender children with one arm. It's like, how do you argue against that, hater? But now we're seeing what's underneath the rock. And, the things that you and I can talk about that people relate to, the transgender dance troupes and operas and things like that, those are smoke screens, because if you go one step lower, in fact, I just finished writing about this, the Gray Zone has a story about how USAID funded a military coup in Bangladesh. So that's where we're going here. We're about to find out, all the dirty little secrets, which is why the Democrats are going insane. This is their piggy bank.
Yes. Well, it's such a good point. It is easy to get distracted by the transgender comic books in Peru and these plans. And But in the end, when you really start digging into what does USAID do that's really destructive, the comic book almost seems like a pottery class. Like it's like almost nothing compared to the fact that USAID has very routinely been involved in regime change operations, in upsetting the stability of the planet far too frequently. And has been a front for the CIA and has been a jobs program for the American left. In fact, most of the money that's disseminated through the agency that almost nobody had ever talked about before would stay inside of Washington's orbit because it was being given to a bunch of lefties who were using it to enrich themselves. So this is, in many ways, it's kind of like a combination of all the worst things. It's a destructive program. It is demonic insofar as it advances these like crazy gender things. And it's also just outright theft by the American left.
Yeah, and, one of the things, and I really want to do a deep dive into this, and there's not enough data, but it turns out that one of the NGOs that has gotten a lot of money from USAID is the Tides Foundation, which is the fiscal sponsor of BLM, and they're the fiscal sponsor of the Soros Prosecutors nonprofit.
Right.
And so this isn't just about regime change in other places. If you think that the 2020 riots had nothing to do with the deep state, you're naive. Because you could now look at the money trail, or at least the start of the money trail that comes back to the left-wing orbit in the United States.
So I'm interested this week in the hysterical, emotionally incontinent Democrat reactions to this, where they stand outside of, again, a little-known agency and they just go ballistic. They scream like their children are being murdered before our very eyes. And I'm wondering what that tells us, David Strom, because it seems to me that the average Democrat politician seems to know a lot about these agencies and their utility.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, you may have noticed that Chris Murphy is, senator from, I think, Connecticut, has been leading the charge. Well, he has been working with USAID on a lot of these things. So, I don't know that any money has flowed to him, but, he was deeply involved in this Bangladeshi coup, apparently. You should really go to the Gray Zone and read their report. It's scary. And, the Democrats' power base has always been tied to a few pillars, one of which, and in some ways the largest of which, is the NGOs, the nonprofits, where, 99.999% of people are Democrat activists. Then you've got the public employees unions. And one of the reasons why the blue cities are so deep blue is that they are dominated by state and local government workers. Who can make up, up to like 30 or 40% of the electorate. And so the middle class doesn't have a chance in places like that. And you just start going down the list, and Donald Trump is systematically defunding and destroying the infrastructure of the left, which is why they are going insane. They were not prepared for this at all. I wasn't prepared for it.
No.
I figured, DOGE would be, a mildly successful, way to get rid of $100 billion. But no, they figured out you've got to defund the left, and that's what they're doing. The left is an extension of the deep state. That is what they are. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, their constituents are the deep state, these lawmakers. Chris Murphy, I just found video of him. Here he is outside of USAID this week. And he says that USAID's importance is that it, quote, supports freedom fighters everywhere in the world. This is amazing. Most people don't use the phrase freedom fighters unironically. Yeah. They mostly, when you say freedom fighters, people are saying that's like that's a euphemism for terrorism. Take a listen to Chris Murphy.
So Elon Musk has been floating all sorts of awful, terrible conspiracy theories about what happens at USAID. Let's make it very clear that every single day, America is safer because of what happens at USAID.
Oh, come on.
USAID fights terrorist groups all across this world, making
sure.
sure that we address the underlying causes for a retreat to terrorism. USAID chases China all around the world, making sure that China doesn't monopolize contracts for critical minerals and port infrastructure all around the world. It supports freedom fighters everywhere in this world. Up until yesterday, delivering firewood, for instance, to the brave Ukrainian defenders on the Eastern Front.
Oh, my goodness. Come on. Now, meanwhile, this USAID funding, am I wrong in thinking that it's ended up in the hands of places like the Taliban and Hamas?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I wrote a piece, I think it's been published, about how USAID gave $360 million to build a cement factory in Gaza. And now go take a look at all those Hamas tunnels. They're all made with concrete. And USAID pays for concrete for our own, and UNRWA as well. And so we subsidize that concrete factory that's churning out cement for Hamas tunnels. So those Hamas tunnels are there partly thanks to U.S. taxpayer dollars. We built the cement plant that, provided all of that concrete for Hamas. And so the idea that, USAID can get sold to the average person as delivering rice and beans to starving Africans. That's what most people think it does.
Yeah. Okay, so let me make sure to emphasize the point that you just made. So, in other words, the United States is funding both sides of the war between Israel and Hamas. That
absolutely
our missiles are flying in and destroying our cement. In that conflict.
Oh, absolutely. Our taxpayer dollars, and every time you look at a photograph of all those buildings destroyed in Gaza, it's not because Israel. I mean, Israel certainly has struck some of them with bombs, but for a lot of them, the ones that are just rubble, it's because there were tunnels built underneath them. And when you drop a bomb and you blow up those tunnels, everything above it collapses.
Yeah.
And so, we built the bombs, sold the bombs to destroy the tunnels that we helped build. And now you're looking at the destruction. And, I don't even begin to understand how evil all of this is. I mean, as demonic as I thought the left was, it's not even close. I feel like I was naive and one of the most cynical people I know. I mean, it's just, it's staggering.
It is staggering. And going back to a point you made earlier, David Strom, I had a lot of hope for President Trump. I was really excited that he got reelected. I was eager to see him execute on this agenda. He's overperforming my expectations. I didn't expect this, and I'm really thrilled with it.
Well, one of the reasons why I supported Ron DeSantis in the primary is I thought, well, this is a guy who knows government in a way that Donald Trump did not appear to know government in his first term. But what we've seen is he has done his homework. He spent 4 years plotting his comeback. And, this is the revenge tour on the systematic destruction of America by the left.
And he's got a team of battle-hardened lieutenants all around him who are all executing on the same vision. It is something to behold. David Strom, always so good to talk to you. Always great to read your website, Hot Air. Nice to talk to you today, sir. All right, President Trump has some more remarks today on DOGE and USAID. I'll share those with you Coming up, I've got Dave calling in right now, though, from Upper Marlboro on line 2. Hello, Dave. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, Dave.
I normally set my clock to your show, but so I'm about 3 hours off. It's been a long 4.5 hours.
Yeah, we've had a long one today. It's all good. All right, Dave, what's on your mind?
So in 2015, Hillary said, what are we going to wipe it with a cloth or something?
Yeah.
My question is, have these computers at the USAID or the servers, have they been secured?
It's a great question. I've
heard nobody talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I presume so, based on the fact that we're not hearing from the Trump administration that they've been destroying everything. We did hear those early reports that USAID employees were running all over the place, pulling down their transgender pride flags. Oh, no, they might see this.
Right.
Yeah, we know. We know you're crazy. You don't have to hide it. We knew that going in.
I suspect Elon's involved, so I think they're secured.
I'll keep my eyes open for those stories, though, Dave. Thank you. It's a big deal. Hey, coming up, the president is speaking out on USAID today, and who's next in that government lineup? Hey, good afternoon. It is 4:35 now, WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program at the top of the hour, the incomparable Victor Davis Hanson is here to talk about President Trump's first about 3 weeks in office, what he makes of those. Angela Morabito will join us at 5:30. She used to work in the Department of Education, and she watched in horror today as Democrats tried to stage an insurrection there. We'll talk to Angela about that. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. President Trump today, standing alongside the Prime Minister of Japan at the White House, was talking about USAID and what it was up to, and DOGE's efforts to get to the bottom of all sorts of corrupt spending in the federal government.
What we're doing, if you look at what has just taken place with respect to some of the investments that have been made on another agency that people have been talking about for years, but nobody did anything about it, it's absolutely obscene, dangerous, bad, very costly. I mean, virtually every investment made is a con job. There's nothing of value to anybody unless there's a kickback scheme going on, which is possible. And we're going to be doing more and more of that. We're going to be looking at Department of Education. We're going to be looking at even our military. We're going to be looking at tremendous amounts of money, Peter, being spent on things that bear no relationship to anything and have no value. We're talking about trillions of dollars. It will be, in the end, trillions of dollars being absolutely wasted and perhaps illegally. I would say certainly in many cases illegally, but perhaps illegally overall. And I'm very proud of the job that this group of young people, generally young people, but very smart people, they're doing. They're doing it at my insistence. It would be a lot easier not to do it. But we have to take some of these things apart to find the corruption. And we found tremendous corruption.
We're talking about trillions of dollars. It would be a lot easier not to do it, said the president. And saying that these very impressive young people are working on fixing all of this. That's why the left is trying to destroy the lives of those young people. They are resorting to doxing, the exposure of the personal details of all of these government workers, in the hopes that mobs will pressure them out of the government. That's what's happening right now, as they try and name and shame anybody who dares take a look at the way the left has been using your money. It's the same today of the security guard who was standing outside the Department of Education, Maxine Waters, trying to reveal that man's name and face to the world so that he can be intimidated into compliance. There's no other reason for that behavior. It's awful coming from a sitting member of Congress, but par for the course for Maxine Waters. So President Trump saying he's not done and they're going to stick with it. They've got a lot of places to go. The Department of Education, you heard him say we're going to look at the military. All long overdue. I got a call coming in from Drew, who's in Annandale, line 5. Drew, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Hi, Vince. Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure.
I dealt with USAID a lot when I was over in Afghanistan, and then I also know a bunch of people who work for the agency, and they've done a bunch of messed up stuff. But there is one program that needs to be saved, and it is the polio eradication program. I personally know the coordinator for USAID, who has done this globally for about 20 years now. And when she took over the program, there's about 350,000 cases of polio expressed every year throughout the globe. Mm-hmm. It is now down to like a low 3-digit number. Okay, like just 100 or maybe 200 cases worldwide. And it's been largely due to her efforts and the efforts of how she coordinates with other agencies like the UN and everything else in order to get this done. Mm-hmm. And it is on track for being only the 3rd disease to ever be eradicated. So the first one was smallpox, and then there's another disease called winterpest. Polio is number 3. And it's this close, and I'm holding, like Chris says, holding my fingers, index and thumb right together, and it would be a damn shame if hers was one of these programs that got cut, because it's one of the only beneficial ones I can think of. And, Secretary Rubio has, if she's not one of the 294, there needs to be another one added to 295, because that is a worthwhile program. It would be tragic if it backslid, because it would be much more expensive, the disease took hold again.
So you're right, as you mentioned, Senator Rubio, now Secretary Rubio, he indicated that all of the functions of USAID are being absorbed into the State Department. They're going to get rid of most of the useless garbage. He said, but if there are things that have redemptive value, they're going to keep them. So you're pointing to the fact that Secretary Rubio should make sure to keep spending money on this polio eradication initiative. Now, as I understand it, go ahead.
If he can hear my voice or one of his assistants, yes, this is the one program, the Global Health Unit and the polio eradication thing that should be saved. Because they could just be tossing everything out. I don't know.
This polio program, as I understand it, is administered by the World Health Organization. They lead this polio thing. Trump just pulled us out of the World Health Organization because, let's be honest, the WHO is about as corrupt of an international body as it gets, and it's led by this Dr. Tedros character who was hand-selected by China to run it. He ran it very poorly during the pandemic phase and covered up for China throughout all of that, including their very bogus investigation into the origins of COVID, which were designed to absolve China of its culpability in the creation of the virus itself. And the other piece is that Dr. Tedros, if you look back at his time, he was an Ethiopian health minister, and he is credibly accused of covering up multiple cholera outbreaks in his home country. So not exactly the guy you want running the show. But despite all of that, you think that this polio program is demonstrating some merit, and we should figure out a way to support it, to eradicate this disease.
Right, and my understanding is WHO was largely dependent on money from the United States to do this, and also it was largely coordinated. WHO was like the vehicle because they have a footprint in kind of everywhere,
right?
Because of the UN, but it was the guidance of the United States and this program based here for a nominal investment. I think the cost of the program is $59 million a year.
Got it. All right. All right. Well, thank you for that, Drew. That's there you go. So that's an example of something that might be worth saving. I tend to err on the side of let's get rid of more, not less. And yes, there will be some good programs get caught up in it. But if you think that's got a lot of value, you're right. This is the audience that'll listen to it and take it seriously.
And my friend has really done yeoman's work on this for a bulk of her career. And I mean, if it was up to me, I'd give her the Presidential Medal of Freedom for what she's done. She has really been a key asset to this entire eradication of this disease.
Sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. Drew, thank you for that. Appreciate that call.
You're welcome.
That's Drew in Annandale saying that this polio eradication program has merit. Perhaps they'll pick it up at the State Department as they pick up a couple of the pieces from the USAID operation. Our buddy Phil in Fredericksburg is calling in. He's on line 2. Hello, Phil. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Look, I just wanted to say that President Trump and Elon Musk, who's working for President Trump, and this magnificent DOGE team are saving what's left of America. The scale of theft, and that's what it is. It's just theft. They are thieves. These leftists got so entranced with the billions and billions of dollars they were stealing that they didn't concentrate on stealing control of the elections, which was wonderful. This is a miracle that we're living through. I'm telling you that President Trump and Elon Musk and that brilliant DOGE team, this is history we're watching. Without them, America would be doomed. I'm telling you, in 10 years, there would be no America because the financial part of America would be destroyed.
This is a major course correction that we're all living through. And thank God. I mean, just imagine the world where Kamala Harris somehow was given power over the country. I can't even imagine. But let me add some more optimism today for you, Phil. The left is basically undertaking an effort to destroy these young people who are working on the DOGE team. And one of them apparently was, it looks like, forced into resignation yesterday after the Wall Street Journal says that they had surfaced some old social media posts that they described as racist. They said he had posted some racist posts, therefore he needs to be fired. And so somebody decided to ask for his resignation and get rid of him. And now I'm watching as Elon Musk has come out. He put out a poll and said, well, wait a second. Should we rehire this person, have him come back and just keep working for us? And the overwhelming result from the internet is, yes, you should. And then J.D. Vance, to his great credit, he's come out to say today and basically said, look, people make mistakes, but he says he can't overstate how much he loathes the emotional blackmail pretending to be concern. And he is encouraging the DOGE team to bring this guy back on and not let the left have this ridiculous heckler's veto. You agree with that, Phil?
I agree with that, but look, Vince, I was on YouTube like 2 days ago. I saw pictures of 6 young men who were working for the DOGE team with their personal information on YouTube, and I was in shock. I was like going, Jesus Christ, they're trying to kill these people, you know? So they need to get protection for what they're doing because You're right. These leftists don't hold back. They have no controls.
No, none whatsoever. Yeah, no, talk about guys who deserve security. Forget Mark Milley and Anthony Fauci. How about we protect the DOGE kids so they can keep getting about the business of actually doing something worthwhile instead of hurting us? I'm with you 100%. Thank you, Phil. I always appreciate the call, sir. That's Phil in Fredericksburg. Let's see. I've got Austin calling in from Great Falls now. Beautiful place. Line 3. Hello, Austin. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking the call. I run a pro-life organization that lobbies the UN on life and family matters. And this afternoon, we're following the executive committee meeting of UNICEF, the UN Children's Agency. And something remarkable happened, and that is that the U.S. representative issued a number of amendments to end all DEI and gender ideology programs in UNICEF. They spend millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars around the world on the ground. And the U.S. moved to eliminate those programs. 2 things. It's amazing how granular this is. Somebody at the State Department on Trump's team knew that this was coming up and had the wherewithal and the presence of mind to issue these amendments. And you should see the look on the guy's face who was representing the United States. He did not really like doing this. So that's the other thing. They're actually carrying out the directives of the administration in a fairly obscure meeting.
Was this person? Yeah. So you're right. Granular is the good way to describe it. This is like they're getting into all of the details here and executing with a lot of efficiency. Is the man you're talking about Jonathan Schreier? Is that the guy's name? Do you know?
Who represented the United States? I don't know. My team would know, but I don't know who it is.
I'm reading a statement. So this is the United States mission to the United Nations, and it's described today. This is literally just posted in the last hour or so. Explanation of vote on UNICEF Agenda Item 5A, Country Program Documents. And it says, thank you, Mr. President. In light of the Executive Board's inability to reach consensus on an acceptable decision on the country program documents, the United States had no other option but to call for a vote and vote no on the decision. The United States cannot agree to country program documents that contain terms and concepts that conflict with U.S. policies as set out in President Trump's recent executive orders, especially when those concepts endanger the very mission of the organization. The United States also objects to any UNICEF efforts to advance such programming in countries. U.S. federal civil rights law protect Americans from discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs violate the text and the spirit of our laws by replacing hard work, merit, and equality with a divisive and dangerous preferential hierarchy As Secretary Rubio made clear, we must eliminate our focus on political and cultural causes that are divisive at home and deeply unpopular abroad. This is fantastic.
How are they moving so fast? It's amazing. We've got one of the quotes here. The guy said that these country program documents contain terms and concepts that promote immoral discrimination and advance harmful gender ideology. How are they moving so fast? I mean, this is a playbook that somebody had, and they've got people in place, and they've got because in the work that we do, where we try to get delegations to do the right thing on life and family matters, in the last Trump administration, it took us 3 years to get them to take a good position at the UN because the pool was just so dirty there at the State Department. But now they're there.
Well,
now they're there.
Here's one thing. There's two parts to this. One is that President Trump and the people around him have been out of power for over 4 years, or during that 4-year period, and they spent a lot of time thinking sincerely about what do we do when we get back, and that's good. The other piece, and here's my suspicion, this is just built on an educated guess, is this era has a technological advantage that the last era didn't, which is artificial intelligence. And Elon Musk, there was a report yesterday in the Washington Post that Elon Musk is using AI right now to help DOGE target a bunch of federal data to figure out what they need to cut and where. In other words, the federal government is so unwieldy, it's beyond the human understanding on a broad basis. But if artificial intelligence can instantly navigate through everything that the federal government produces and look for key language and like things that you and I are talking about and say, okay, that needs to be targeted to be changed. My suspicion is that they're also using AI to assess even granular things like our policies at UNICEF.
Right. At an obscure executive board meeting.
Yeah.
My staff and I, we are just stunned at how fast this happened.
Pretty amazing.
And that they got the guy to say it. I mean, last time around, there would have been major internal resistance within state. At USAID would get involved in this. The NSC would get involved in this. But somehow it went all the way through to this guy saying these things just an hour ago. It's astounding.
It is astounding, and in such a good way. Thank you, Austin. What a great piece of news. Thank you for sharing it. Really nice to talk to you, sir. All right, let's go to the phones again. Mark in Virginia Beach, line 2. Hello, Mark. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. How you doing?
Good, sir.
So I want to give a quick update on Pete Hegseth, the new SecDef.
Yeah.
We had an all hands today, and listening to him, at first he was a little shaky, I guess, because he's a little nervous. But what he said was outstanding. Focus on being lethal, the lethality of our military. Get DE out of the military.
Yeah.
And he was just very encouraging, very direct.
Were people fired up? Was that room fired up? Did they like Secretary Hegseth?
Well, there's stone faces there, and there's people who applauded. So it goes both ways.
Yep, I bet.
But America needs to take courage that we have a new sheriff in town.
Yes, all over the place. Lots of new sheriffs. Yeah, I'm encouraged by Pete Hegseth at the Defense Department. A dramatic improvement over Lloyd Austin. Really glad he's there. Glad to see him doing that all-hands meeting. We saw some of those video clips come out today. He was focusing on unity, lethality. He said he's going to make sure that the Pentagon can pass an audit. These would be miracles if he can pull them off, and they're really important, so he should pull them off. Victor Davis Hanson will join us next here on the program.